Hidden Stone Village. Alright, the Hidden Stone Village is literally built on pure stubbornness and raw power. Stone Ninja are famous for insane endurance, crazy physical strength, and an Earth release game that sits at the absolute top tier. But when we start talking about the strongest elite Jonin from Stone, it's way more interesting than most people expect. Let's start with Akatsuchi. This dude is known as the shield of the Third Tsuchikaghê, and for good reason. He has absolutely ridiculous physical strength, unrivaled inside the village. He casually carries the Tsuchikaghê around with all his luggage all day without getting tired. He can straight up summon a massive rock golem from his mouth to crush White Zetsu. And he was trusted as a personal bodyguard for both the Third and Fourth Tsuchikaghê. On paper, that sounds insanely impressive. But here's the issue. Akatsuchi is basically a glorified tank. He's strong, he's durable, he can take hits all day. But his offensive capability? Honestly, mid at best. His rock golem only has clear feats against White Zetsu clones, which are literally war arc fodder. He has zero real feats against actual high-level threats. Being a bodyguard is cool, but it doesn't automatically mean peak combat performance. Now Katsuchi is way more interesting. This guy was the 2nd Division commander during the 4th Great Ninja War. He solo killed dozens of White Zetsu without breaking a sweat. He straight up punched Kinkaku in his six-tailed form and sent him flying several meters back. His Earth release manipulation operates on an absolutely massive scale. He can terraform an entire battlefield, reshape the terrain, and create gigantic rock formations to completely crush his targets. His signature technique, Earth Release Sandwich Technique, is literally bigger than the demonic statue of the Outer Path. That scale is absolutely insane. But here's the thing, Katsuchi is a support-type powerhouse. Most of his best feats require setup, time, teamwork, or battlefield control. In a pure one-on-one fight, he lacks speed and versatility. He's a division commander because of his tactical mind and overwhelming support value, not because he's the single deadliest fighter on the field. Now let's talk about Gari, and this is where things get spicy. Gari actually has explosion release, a Kekkei Genkai using the exact same element as the guy I'm about to mention next. Gari was the captain of the Explosion Corps, and he specialized in pure offense. Taijutsu stacked with explosive chakra. His landmine fist straight up obliterates enemies with a single punch. This dude is physically strong, legitimately fast, and sneaky enough to catch people off guard. Kabuto even chose to reincarnate him for the war, which already says a lot. And in the anime, Orochimaru specifically wanted him revived. That alone is a massive stamp of approval. Gari was strong enough to force Rock Lee, a literal taijutsu prodigy, into full defensive mode. Lee couldn't block his attacks, he could only dodge. But here's Gary's fatal flaw. He's a close-range specialist. Explosion release at melee range is insanely dangerous, sure, but it also means he has to get close to be effective. Any opponent with good spacing, solid range, or high mobility can completely shut down Gary's entire game plan. He has no real answer to long-range threats, and that's exactly why Deidara takes this. Deidara, an S-rank missing nin and former Stone Jonin, is basically the definition of impossible to deal with. He has the same explosion release, Kekkei Genkai, as Gari, but his application is on a completely different level. Instead of punching people, Deidara infuses explosive chakra into clay and molds it into anything he wants, from microscopic bombs to massive flying dragons. He fights almost entirely at long range, stays airborne on explosive birds, and casually drops bombs from the sky where his opponents literally can't touch him. He defeated Gaara, the 5th Kazekage. He straight up captured Isobu, a full-on tailed beast. And he fought Sasuke Uchiha on equal footing, despite having a massive elemental disadvantage. Sasuke has lightning release, which is a hard counter to explosive clay. And Deidara still made that fight competitive through tactics and insane creativity. This dude literally trained his left eye just to counter Genjutsu, specifically because he wanted revenge on Itachi. He has stealth skills good enough to sneak up on ANBU. He has the stamina and pain tolerance to keep fighting even after losing both arms. And his ultimate technique? He straight up turns himself into a living bomb, with a blast radius massive enough to completely erase the surrounding landscape. Now compare that to Gari's close-range explosion release. Gari has to get close. Deidara? He's chilling in the sky, dropping C2 dragons and C4 Karura that you literally can't touch. Gari counters taijutsu fighters. Deidara counters entire villages because of his insane versatility and overwhelming range advantage. Even Pain himself admitted that losing Deidara was a major blow to the Akatsuki. That's absolutely wild praise. So yeah, the strongest elite Jonin the Hidden Stone Village ever produced is Deidara. He might be a missing nin, but he was trained in stone, developed his entire fighting style there, and prove that Stone's stubborn mentality, combined with genuine, genius-level creativity, creates a threat that even Kage-level opponents have to respect. Art is an explosion, and Deidara embodied that shit perfectly. Hidden Mist Village. Alright, let's talk about the Hidden Mist Village. And guys, if you know anything about Kiri, you already know this village is built different. This is the village of the Bloody Mist era, where academy students literally had to kill each other just to graduate. This place straight up breeds killers. Plain and simple. So when we start talking about the strongest elite Jonin from Mist, things get dark real fast. First up, we have to talk about Ao. This guy is a veteran hunter nin and a legendary censor-type shinobi. He actually survived a fight with Shisui Uchiha, a genius among geniuses within the Uchiha clan. That alone is an insane credential. Shisui was considered a genius even among the Uchiha, feared across multiple nations, and Ao still managed to survive and take his eye. During the Fourth Great Ninja War, Ao led the censor division. He could accurately pick out reincarnated shinobi hidden among thousands of White Zetsu clones, a feat other censors straight up couldn't pull off. He has advanced taijutsu skills, solid water release, and even genjutsu control. Later on, after receiving shinobi wear modifications, Ao could tank an entire cave collapse and wield scientific ninja tools like a pro. That's an impressive resume, no doubt. But here's the reality. Ao is a specialist. He's elite at sensory work and tracking. He survives through intelligence, preparation, and battlefield awareness. In pure combat, he's not a powerhouse. The Byakugan lets him detect, analyze, and react, but it doesn't boost his raw power. Against top-tier fighters with overwhelming strength, Ao's toolkit just isn't enough. He's the perfect support asset and an elite tracker, but he's not a one-man army. Now we have to talk about the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Mist, and more specifically, their strongest generation. This is a huge deal because Kiri's entire identity is literally tied to those 7 legendary blades. Let's start with Mangetsu Hozuki. Nicknamed the Second Coming of the Demon, he's the only person besides Kisame who ever mastered all 7 swords, including Samahada, which is notoriously picky about its wielder. That alone is insane. Mangetsu was a straight-up prodigy swordsman. He had the Hozuki clan's hydrification technique, letting him turn his body into water. He was skilled in silent killing, and Kabuto specifically chose to reincarnate him for the war. In the anime, Mangetsu was literally the last swordsman standing after his 6 comrades were sealed. Then there's Fuguki Suikazan, another member of that strongest generation. Fuguki wielded Samahada before Kisame ever did. He had massive chakra reserves, enough to constantly feed Samahada's insane appetite. He could harden his hair into senbon needles or spear-like weapons, and despite his bulky build, he was still fully capable of silent killing. Together, Mangetsu and Fuguki represented the absolute peak of what the 7 swordsmen were supposed to be. But here's where things get spicy. That so-called strongest generation of the 7 swordsmen, they got absolutely washed. Might Guy's father, Might Dewey, an eternal Jonin that everyone clowned on, opened the 8 gates and killed 4 of them in a single fight. Mangetsu died young from illness. Fuguki was killed by his own student. For all their legendary hype, their actual combat records have some massive holes. The swordsman title carries insane prestige, but prestige alone doesn't win fights against overwhelming power. And that's exactly why Kisame Hoshigaki stands alone. Kisame wasn't just a member of the 7 swordsmen. He straight up killed Fuguki, his own master who wielded Samahada, and then took the blade for himself. After that, he joined the Akatsuchi and became an S-rank missing nin. And yeah, let me run through his feats, because they are absolutely bonkers. He captured Roshi, the Four-Tails Jinchuriki, with very little effort. He nearly captured Killer B, the perfect 8-Tails Jinchuriki, while B was at full power. He forced Might Guy, one of Konoha's absolute strongest fighters, to open 6 gates just to deal with a 30% power clone of Kisame. When Guy finally fought the real Kisame, he had to open 7 gates, and even then, he barely won. Kisame survived Killer B's version 2 lightning release, Lariat, even though his ribcage was completely destroyed. He tanked Guy's Daytime Tiger, a technique literally described as a one-hit kill, and still had enough strength afterward to break free from Yamato's wood release restraints. His nickname? The Tailed Beast Without a Tail. And that's not hype. Kisame's chakra reserves were so absurd that 30% of his chakra was being compared to Naruto's. When fused with Samahada, he could breathe underwater, sense chakra, absorb it through physical contact, and create massive water domes that force opponents to fight entirely on his terms. His water release mastery let him reshape entire battlefields, summon armies of sharks, and overwhelm even Morning Peacock's relentless barrage. Samihada itself was called the most terrifying of the seven blades, and Kisame was the only one who truly mastered its chakra absorption to the fullest. Now compare that to Mangetsu's versatility, or Fuguki's raw strength. Yeah, they wielded legendary swords. Yeah, they were elite swordsmen. But Kisame repeatedly fought Kage-level opponents and held his own. He solo captured multiple Jinchuriki, and it required 7 gates to put Kisame down. And 8 gates, Guy nearly killed Ten Tails Madara. Let that power scaling really sink in. Kisame isn't just the strongest Jonin the Hidden Mist ever produced. He's a walking natural disaster, openly praised by Pain himself. His death was considered a massive blow to an organization that already had Itachi, Obito, and Pain in its lineup. Strongest elite Jonin the Hidden Mist Village ever had? Kisame Hoshigaki. This dude proved that overwhelming raw power, when combined with intelligence and a perfect signature weapon, creates something even the strongest generation of legendary swordsmen couldn't match. Hidden Cloud Village. Yo, let's talk about the Hidden Cloud Village. And guys, this place is straight up built on aggression and military might. Cloud Ninja are famous for insane lightning release mastery, ridiculous physical strength, and that trademark arrogance that comes from being one of the strongest villages in the world. These dudes tried to kidnap Hinata. They tried to kidnap Kushina. They are permanently on that warpath energy. So when it comes to picking the strongest elite Jonin from Cloud, let's break it down. First up is Mabui, the Raikage's assistant and the user of the Heavenly Transfer Technique. This jutsu can transport matter across long distances at light speed. On paper, that sounds completely broken. And yeah, it kind of is. Mabui literally teleported Tsunade and the Raikage straight onto the battlefield instantly during the war. But here's the massive caveat. That technique is primarily utility, not combat. It's a strategic and logistical tool, not a fighting ability. Mabui herself isn't a combatant. Her value is coordination, transport, and battlefield logistics. So in any serious discussion about the strongest combat Jonin, she doesn't even enter the conversation. Completely different lane. Then there's Samui. She's a Jonin with solid Kenjutsu skills, uses a Tanto, and has deep knowledge about the Gold and Silver Brothers and their weapons. She's competent, professional, and extremely level-headed under pressure. No nonsense. But realistically, Samui's actual feats are very limited. She fights using basic Kenjutsu, has no unique abilities, and no major standout moments. She was sent as a messenger, participated in the war, but never had that defining fight that showcased top-tier power. She's a reliable Jonin, sure, but she's nowhere near the peak of what the Hidden Cloud Village can produce. Now let's talk about C, the 4th Raikage's personal bodyguard, and a sensor-type ninja. And yeah, this guy is way more interesting than he looks at first glance. C has long-range sensory abilities, medical ninjutsu for healing, and a creative combo of lightning release and yin release that lets him blind opponents while planting false images in their vision. That's a legitimately smart and creative use of genjutsu. C is also extremely knowledgeable. He immediately recognized the Mangekyo Sharingan, already knew about Itachi's Amaterasu, and after seeing it just once, he correctly deduced Sasuke's blaze release, Kagutsuchi. That level of analytical skill is genuinely impressive. Alongside Darui and the Raikage, he helped pressure the entire Taka team at the Kage Summit. But, and this is a big but, C is still a support specialist. He's a sensor, analyst, medic, and tactical genjutsu user. In a team setting, he's absolutely invaluable. In a solo fight against top-tier powerhouses, he lacks raw firepower. Being the Raikage's bodyguard means he's trusted, competent, and reliable, but it doesn't automatically mean he's the strongest fighter around. Bodyguards work in coordinated teams, cover weaknesses, and provide support. That's C's role, and he excels at it. But when it comes to pure destructive power, that's just not his game. Now let's talk about what actually separates the Hidden Cloud from everyone else. Jinchuriki. Cloud has a legit perfect Jinchuriki training program. Killer B is the most famous example, but even before B fully mastered the Eight Tails, Cloud already had another Jinchuriki who impressed even him. Yugito ni, the Jinchuriki of the Two Tails. Matatabi. You know what? Even Killer B looked up to her, despite her being younger than him. Let that sink in. B, who would later become the strongest perfect Jinchuriki in the entire series, straight up respected Yugito's abilities. Yugito ni had complete control over the Two Tails transformation. Not full control over Matatabi's personality, but full control over how much chakra she used and how the transformation happened. And that already puts her leagues above most Jinchuriki, who struggle with this their entire lives. She could partially transform, manifest tails, go full version 2, or straight up enter complete Biju form whenever she wanted. No loss of control. No hesitation. Her fire release was absolutely insane. She was firing massive fireballs that could wipe out entire buildings in a single shot. She even had this wild technique where she shot flaming mouse-shaped hair attacks that split apart, chased targets, and then exploded on contact. That's not just powerful, that's creative and deadly. In taijutsu, Yugito was just as dangerous. She could grow claws from her fingers and toes, clash directly with sword users, and even strike airborne opponents. Her fighting style was tactical, forcing blocks with her hand claws, then immediately following up with toe claws. That's high-level close combat awareness. Hiden, an Akatsuchi member who is literally immortal, openly admitted that defeating her with tailed beast support would be difficult. Coming from an immortal psychopath, that's serious respect. She also proved her intelligence. Yugito successfully lured 2 Akatsuchi members into a sealed room trap and cut off their escape routes. Yeah, she still lost, because those 2 were Hiden and Kakuzu, who are absurdly hard to kill. But the fact that she had a clear game plan and forced them into a disadvantageous position shows real combat IQ. And after being reincarnated with Sharingan and Rinnegan, she became even more dangerous thanks to enhanced perception and shared vision. Now compare Yugito to the other candidates. C has sensor skills and analysis. Yugito turns into a giant two-tailed cat demon firing building-sized fireballs. Samui uses a sword. Yugito has claws infused with Biju chakra that rip straight through opponents. Mabui transfers objects. Yugito is the living weapon. Here's the real talk. Jinchuriki exist on a completely different power tier. Yugito wasn't just a Jonin with cool techniques. She housed a literal tailed beast, mastered its power, and could deploy it effectively in real combat. Her chakra reserves completely dwarfed normal shinobi. Her durability in Biju form could tank attacks that would instantly kill regular ninja. And when she went full Two Tails, she became a straight-up kaiju-level threat. So yeah, the strongest elite Jonin the Hidden Cloud village ever produced is Yugito ni. She represented the absolute peak of Cloud's Jinchuriki program, impressed Killer B himself, earned Akatsuki's respect, and wielded power no regular Jonin could ever match. Cloud has plenty of strong sensor types, tacticians, and kenjutsu users, but once Yugito transformed into the Two Tails, game over. That's the difference between a good Jonin and an elite Jonin with a literal tailed beast backing them up. Hidden Sand Village. Alright bro, let's talk about the Hidden Sand. And yeah, this village has a straight-up identity crisis. They're one of the 5 great villages, sure. But let's be real, they've always been the underdog. Smaller army, brutal desert environment, and constant resource problems. Life in Suna is not easy mode. But here's the thing, what Suna lacks in numbers, they absolutely make up for with highly specialized techniques and some genuinely terrifying individuals. So when you try to pick the strongest elite Jonin here, things get controversial fast. Let's start with Baki. Baki is a Jonin, a village council member, and a senior military figure. This guy uses a wind-release blade technique that he straight-up claims is unblockable. And honestly, it slices through opponents ridiculously easily. He's tough enough to take sword strikes without even flinching. He killed Hayate Gecko during the Konoha Crush, and he can instantly recognize high-level techniques on sight. Kabuto even wanted to reincarnate him if he had died, which already tells you Baki is not some random Jonin. Those are solid, legit credentials for a typical Jonin. But here's the reality check. Baki is a military officer first, a fighter second. His wind blade is deadly, absolutely, but it's basically his one real trick. Against opponents with real versatility or overwhelming power, he just doesn't have enough answers. Being on the council means he's trusted and experienced, sure. It does not automatically mean he's peak combat material. Now, Pakura is a completely different beast. She brings something insanely unique to the table. Scorch Release, a Kekkei Genkai. She's the only known user of this bloodline, combining fire and wind to create heat orbs that literally mummify enemies by evaporating all the moisture in their bodies. Yeah, that's an absolutely horrifying way to die. Pakura's speed and agility, combined with Scorch Release, let her massacre members of the allied shinobi forces insanely fast. Kabuto specifically chose to reincarnate her because he knew exactly how dangerous she was. And she's not just a ranged fighter either. She held off Omoi, a kenjutsu specialist, using nothing but kunai at close range. That's skill, not gimmicks. But even with how brutally deadly Scorch Release is, Pakura has a fundamental weakness. She's kind of a one-trick monster. The heat orbs are devastating, no question, but against opponents with smart counters or overwhelming speed, she doesn't have many backup options. She was ultimately betrayed and killed by Kirigakure Ninja, which proves she was powerful, but not invincible. Now let's talk about Temari. This is where things get really interesting. Temari specializes in long-range combat, using her massive iron fan to control wind currents on an absolutely insane scale. This isn't basic wind release, this is battlefield-level control. Even back when she was just a Jonin, she straight-up killed Taiyuya, the second strongest member of the Sound Four, without taking a single scratch, clean, surgical, no drama. By part 2, her wind control became so ridiculously precise that she could slice straight through armor without even touching the person inside. That's not raw power, that's mastery. And during the Fourth Great Ninja War, Temari actually injured the Third Raikage. Yeah, that guy, the one whose body was famous for being nearly indestructible. She was recognized as the best wind release user in the 4th Division, and later as the best wind release user in all of Tsunagakure. Some sources even suggest she might be the best in the entire world. That is absurd-level praise. On top of that, she's a legit tactical genius, constantly reading the battlefield, breaking down enemy strategies in real time, and even teaching advanced techniques to others. So yeah, strong case for Temari being the strongest, right? And honestly, among active, loyal Jonin, she probably is. But, and this part is absolutely crucial, we're talking about the strongest elite Jonin Tsunagakure has ever produced. And that list includes certain individuals who didn't stay in the village. Now let's look at Kankuro, who seems like the obvious pick at first. He's the 4th Kazakage's son, went through brutal high-level training, killed some of the Sound Four's strongest members back when he was still a genin, and later rose to Jonin and even division commander during the war. His puppetry skills were praised by Sasori himself, which is literally the highest possible compliment in the entire puppeteer world. Kankuro developed the Black Secret Technique style, can control multiple puppets at once, and uses chakra threads to disrupt and completely mess with an opponent's chakra flow. His arsenal is deep, versatile, and undeniably dangerous. But here's the thing that completely disqualifies Kankuro from the top spot. Every single puppet he used was created by someone else. His 3 main puppets? All made by Sasori. And when Kankuro actually fought Sasori, he got absolutely dismantled. Sasori knew every mechanism, every hidden trick, every single weakness built into those puppets. Kankuro is a skilled puppeteer, maybe even a top-tier puppet master. But at the end of the day, he's still fighting with someone else's toys. And that brings us to Sasori of the Red Sand. This is where the conversation completely changes. Sasori was trained by Chiyo, Tsunagakure's legendary puppet master. And under her training, he didn't just become good, he became so insanely skilled that he created an entirely new form of puppetry. Not normal puppets. Human puppets. Actual human bodies turned into weapons, still retaining their original abilities, Kekkei Genkai, and techniques. This wasn't imitation, this was preservation. And yeah, Sasori literally created the three main puppets that Kankuro uses. By his final battle, Sasori had 298 human puppets in his collection. Let that number sink in for a second. That's 298 real people converted into eternal weapons. His greatest achievement? He defeated and killed the Third Tsuchikaghê, the strongest ninja in Suna's entire history, and then turned him into a puppet. That Third Tsuchikaghê puppet still had magnet release, controlling iron sand on a devastating scale. And when iron sand was mixed with Sasori's poison, it became even more lethal. Those iron sand arms could crush enemies, release poisonous gas, drag victims into massive clouds, and they were completely immune to normal metal weapons. And that's just one puppet in his arsenal. Then there's Red Secret Technique, performance of 100 puppets. With this technique, Sasori could control over 100 puppets at the same time, something most shinobi believed was straight up impossible. Using this alone, he wiped out an entire small nation by himself. No army, no backup. His chakra thread control was so advanced that the threads became literally invisible. And his poisons? So complex that Sasori himself admitted no one in Sunagakure could counter them. Sakura creating an antidote actually impressed him, because the level of precision required left absolutely zero room for error. And then we get to the most broken part, Sasori's own body. He turned himself into a puppet, achieving functional immortality. He didn't need food or sleep. He felt no pain, no fatigue, no muscle failure, no blood loss. He could fight forever. His body was virtually indestructible except for his core. And he could instantly transfer that core between puppets, abandoning damaged bodies without hesitation. That body was loaded. Fire streams hot enough to melt rock, water jets that cut through stone, spinning blade propellers, and a massive scroll-based weapon arsenal. And later on, Kankuro actually used Sasori's own body as a puppet. The irony is unreal. Even Deidara, an S-rank Akatsuchi member himself, openly admitted that Sasori was stronger than him. During the Third Shinobi World War, Sasori's reputation spread across nations. He was so feared that people said he literally turned the sand red with blood. And his legacy was so powerful that Kankuro, who was born after Sasori had already left the village, still knew his name and feared it. Compare that with anyone else. Tamari has the best wind release in the village, no debate. Sasori has access to the Third Tsuchikaghé's magnet release, plus 297 other abilities on top of that. Pakura has a unique Kekkei Genkai that only she ever had. Sasori, meanwhile, was out here collecting Kekkei Genkai users like Pokemon cards and stacking their powers together at the same time. Kankuro is a skilled puppeteer, sure, but Sasori literally invented human puppetry and used it to destroy entire nations. Strongest elite Jonin the Hidden Sand has ever produced? Sasori. He may have left the village, become a missing nin, and joined the Akatsuchi, but he was trained in Sunagakure, developed his art there, and proved that Suna's puppetry tradition, when pushed to its absolute extreme, creates something that completely transcends normal shinobi limits. The dude achieved literal immortality and collected hundreds of human weapons. That's not just the strongest Jonin, that's straight up nightmare fuel. Hidden Leaf Village. Alright guys, let's talk about the Hidden Leaf. This is easily the deepest village in the entire series, and trying to pick the strongest elite Jonin here? Yeah, that's a straight up drama minefield. Konoha literally has close to 50 Jonin at different points in the story, and has produced more elite shinobi than any other village. Will of Fire, the strongest Hokage bloodline, home of the Uchiha clan, the Hyuga clan, and the legendary Sannin. This roster is stacked as hell. But once you try to pick the strongest elite Jonin, while excluding anyone who became Kage, things get complicated really fast. Before the comments start screaming, "Where's Kakashi?" or "Minato claps," let me make this clear. We're talking about pure Jonin only, not people who later became Kage. So Minato, Kakashi, Tsunade? They're out. They already have their own category. We're focusing on shinobi who peaked at the Jonin rank, either by choice or by circumstance. Now, when you look at Konoha's massive Jonin lineup, a few names instantly come to mind. Asuma Sarutobi, the third Hokage's son, a former guardian ninja wielding chakra blades with serious wind release mastery. The guy trained Team 10, fought Akatsuchi members, and had that Sarutobi bloodline backing him hard. Then there's Kurenai Yuhi, a genjutsu specialist Jonin, and one of the very few people in the entire world that Itachi actually acknowledged in that field. Both are skilled, both are respected, and both are absolutely legit. But when it comes to the title of strongest, they're not really in the conversation. They're solid Jonin, great teachers, and very capable fighters. But against true top-tier threats, they just don't have that extra gear that separates the elite from the monsters. Fugaku Uchiha brings way more heat. He was the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, nicknamed Wicked Eye Fugaku. And during the Third Great Ninja War, other villages were straight up scared of him. This man was literally considered as a candidate for Fourth Hokage, directly competing with Minato for the position. According to the anime, he even had the Mangekyo Sharingan, and was confident he could control the Nine Tails. His talent was compared directly to Minato and all three legendary Sannin, which is a completely wild statement when you're talking about Minato-tier shinobi. But here's the brutal truth. Fugaku never truly showed his full power on screen. Everything about him is built on statements, rumors, hype, and raw potential. He died before he could prove anything concrete. And I don't rank characters based on trust me bro energy or hearsay. If there are no real feats, then sit down. Dan Kato also deserves a mention. This guy had the spirit transformation technique, a unique jutsu that lets him literally turn into a living spirit to attack enemies and even possess them. Kabuto chose to reincarnate him during the Fourth Great Ninja War, and Kakuzu called him the Gold General, which already tells you he wasn't fodder. But when you look at the facts, Dan's actual combat feats are extremely limited. Most people remember him more as Tsunade's dead boyfriend than as a serious combat monster. His technique is dangerous when it works, sure, but he never had those insane on-screen showings needed to compete with real top tiers. Now we get to Jiraiya, and this is where things get genuinely spicy. Jiraiya technically held the rank of Jonin until his death, even though he was one of the three legendary Sannin. He was offered the Hokage position 3 separate times and turned it down every single time. He just didn't want that paperwork life and preferred traveling and research. This dude had Sage Mode from Mount Myoboku, absolutely massive Senjutsu chakra reserves, Rasengan mastery at the creator level, sealing jutsu at an insanely high tier, and a summoning contract with the Toads, including Gamabunta. Kisame and Itachi, both S-rank Akatsuki members, openly admitted that even if they attacked him together, the best they could hope for was a stalemate. And Pain himself, the Rinnegan god-tier leader of the Akatsuki, straight up stated that if Jiraiya had known the secret behind the 6 paths, Pain would have lost. That is an absolutely insane statement coming from someone on Pain's level. Jiraiya's resume speaks for itself. He was the sensei of the 4th Hokage, Minato. He trained Nagato, who later became Pain. He's the one who wrote about the Child of Prophecy. And across all 5 great nations, Jiraiya was straight up one of the most feared shinobi alive. His versatility was completely unmatched. Summonings, Sage Mode, a massive jutsu arsenal, top-tier sealing techniques, and elite-level intelligence gathering. If we're ranking based on overall skill, experience, and versatility, Jiraiya has an overwhelming case. He fought in multiple great ninja wars, battled Hanzo the Salamander, and earned the Sannin title, and infiltrated insanely high-security locations. As a shinobi package, he was damn near complete. But here's the thing, guys. When we stop talking versatility and start talking pure destructive power and absolute peak combat performance, there is one man that even Madara Uchiha, 10 Tails Madara, had to acknowledge. Might Guy. Let that sink in for a second. Guy, the dude people clowned on for being taijutsu only, for wearing a green jumpsuit, for having that goofy personality, nearly killed Madara, while Madara was in a literal god-tier form. Night Guy, the final technique of the 8 Gates formation, was moving so fast it actually distorted space itself. Madara, a guy who fought Hashirama multiple times, who had the Rinnegan, 10 Tails power, and centuries of combat experience, looked at Guy mid-fight and declared him the strongest taijutsu user he had ever faced. That wasn't hype or a casual compliment. That was Madara, Mr. I've seen everything, genuinely acknowledging Guy as a real threat. Guy's 8 gates progression is completely insane. The first gate removes mental limiters. The third gate turns the skin red. The sixth gate starts destroying the body, but gives a massive power spike. The seventh gate releases that blue aura, and Guy was able to repeatedly use the seventh gate during the war and still keep fighting. Every technique at each level is devastating. Morning Peacock creates flames purely from the friction of rapid punches. Daytime Tiger fires a compressed air pressure cannon that's literally described as a one-hit kill. Evening Elephant generates shockwaves that warp space just from punch speed alone. And then there's the eighth gate, the Gate of Death. Red aura. Blood mist evaporating from body heat. Power that comes at the cost of your life. Night Guy was so fast and so powerful that space itself warped around the impact. And remember the context here. This was Madara with truth-seeking orbs that erase anything they touch. Limbo clones invisible to everyone except Rinnegan users. And instant regeneration from Ten-Tail's power. And Guy still cracked him like an egg and nearly killed him outright. Madara had to activate every defensive ability he had at the same time just to survive. Yeah, Jiraiya has more versatility. Yeah, Fugaku theoretically had Mangekyo hacks. But when it comes down to one simple question, who actually wins in a fight to the death? Might Guy with the 8 gates is undisputed. He proved it against literal god-tier opposition in real combat. Not statements, not rumors, not hype. Kishimoto himself had to permanently cripple Guy after the war, because if he didn't, the power scaling would have been completely broken going forward. The strongest elite Jonin the Hidden Leaf ever produced? Might Guy. And once that 8th gate opens, it's not even close. That's peak human potential pushed to its absolute extreme. Tsunagakure. The Sand Village, also known as Tsunagakure, has had some insanely strong kunoichi over the years. Most people instantly think about Tamari with her giant fan and that absolutely top-tier wind control. She's totally talented, no debate. She once flat-out killed Tayuya, the second strongest member of the Sound Four, without even getting a scratch on herself. After the Fourth Shinobi War, Tamari basically became the #1 wind release master of the village. She's ridiculously smart in battle and was sharp enough to almost beat Shikamaru Nara back in the Chunin exams. There's also Pakura, the one they literally call the hero of the sand. She has Scorch Release, a super rare and super deadly Kekkei Genkai. She's the only person in the entire series who can use it. Scorch Release lets her create insanely hot orbs that basically mummify enemies by evaporating all the moisture in their bodies. During the war, Pakura wiped out a ton of shinobi from the allied shinobi forces in a crazy short amount of time. She was so strong that Kabuto Yakushi specifically picked her to revive for his Edo Tensei army. But here's the thing, Pakura never really had top-tier achievements at the absolute highest level. She didn't go up against real Kage-level monsters or true S-rank threats in huge, decisive battles. So who's actually the strongest kunoichi in Tsunagakure's history? That title absolutely belongs to Chiyo, the legendary grandma of the sand. The name might sound kinda basic at first, but Chiyo is honestly one of the most dangerous ninja the whole Naruto-verse has ever seen. She founded and led the Tsunagakure Puppet Brigade, the most famous puppet unit in the entire world. She's basically the living symbol of puppet jutsu in the sand. Every single puppeteer in the village learned from the techniques she created. Even her grandson Sasori, one of the most deadly members of the Akatsuchi, originally learned the craft from her. Chiyo can control 10 puppets at the same time. The legendary Chikamatsu collection, created by Monzaemon Chikamatsu, the original pioneer of puppet techniques. These 10 puppets work together almost perfectly and come loaded with insanely strong moves like 3 jewels, suction crushing, and sealing technique, lion closing roar. In her fight against Sasori, Chiyo's 10 puppets actually kept up with 100 of Sasori's puppets. 100. For context, Sasori literally wiped out an entire nation with those puppets, and Chiyo still had enough skill to absolutely stand toe-to-toe with that madness. And that's still not everything. Chiyo is also a master-level medical nin and a straight-up poison expert. Her poison knowledge is so crazy that in her entire life, only one person was able to counter it, Tsunade, officially recognized as the greatest medical nin in the world. Chiyo fought Hanzo of the Salamander multiple times and understood every tiny detail of his poisons. She even created a life-giving forbidden technique that can revive the dead, although it costs her own life. And she actually used that technique to bring back Gaara after the Akatsuki pulled Shukaku out of his body. And of course, when it comes to real feats, you gotta look at the battle where Chiyo and Sakura Haruno teamed up against Sasori. That fight is honestly one of the most epic and straight-up impressive battles in the whole series. It's pure art, Absolutely peak Naruto. Later on, Kabuto Yakushi revived Chiyo during the Fourth Shinobi War because she was that strong, and she only stopped fighting when Itachi Uchiha broke Kabuto's control over the Edo Tensei. Think about it like this. Temari is strong, but she never took down an actual member of the Akatsuki. Pakura has a unique Keki Genkai, but she doesn't have the same legacy or historical impact that Chiyo has. Chiyo's got everything: real combat power, insanely high intelligence, top-tier medical knowledge, and a legacy that lasts for generations. Some people might argue Temari had more screen time, or that Pakura's Kekkei Genkai looks flashier. But when it comes to being truly fearless, and absolutely the strongest, nobody in Tsunagakure comes close to Chiyo. She fought in 3 different Shinobi World Wars. She faced the strongest enemies of her era and survived it all. Even when she was old and worn out, she still had enough strength to take down an Akatsuki member. So here's the final answer for Tsunagakure. Chiyo is the strongest and most fearless kunoichi the village has ever had. Not because she had the wildest or flashiest jutsu, but because her overall strength, skills, achievements, and impact absolutely overshadow every other kunoichi in the village. Though if we're talking about the strongest kunoichi who's still alive, that spot totally belongs to Temari, Kumogakure. Moving over to the Cloud Village, aka Kumogakure, the place that constantly pumps out some of the strongest and most aggressive ninja in the whole Naruto world. And yeah, people usually think about a bunch of big dudes when they picture this village, but honestly, the Cloud also has some seriously solid kunoichi. For example, you've got Samui and Mabui, and to be totally fair, both of them have pretty impressive skills. Samui is the leader of Team Samui and a Jonin with some absolutely clean kenjutsu ability. She knows a ton about the village's lore, especially about the Gold and Silver Brothers and the 4 mythical weapons they carried. In battle, Samui uses a tanto extremely well and works insanely smoothly with her teammates. But here's the actual issue. Samui doesn't have a single truly big feat. She's a legitimately skilled ninja, no question about it, but she's just not strong enough to sit at the very top of this list. Now what about Mabui? Mabui has a super special technique, the ability to transfer matter across long distances at literally the speed of light. That's exactly why she was chosen to be the assistant of the Fourth Raikage. The technique itself is absolutely unique, but having a unique jutsu doesn't automatically make you the strongest fighter. Mabui is an amazing support ninja, but when it comes to real combat prowess, she can't compare to Kunoichi, who actually fought high-level threats head-on. I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't even remember who she is anymore. Some people might even try to argue about Karui. Yeah, Karui married Choji and she's living in the Leaf now, and she definitely has some serious kenjutsu skills, but she's still only a chunin, while the other women mentioned above are all Jonin level already. So who's actually the strongest and most fearless kunoichi in the entire Cloud Village? The answer is absolutely Yugito Ni, the Jinchuriki of the Two Tails Matatabi. Yugito is on a completely different level. She became the Jinchuriki of the Two Tails when she was only 2 years old. 2. Most kids at that age are barely learning how to talk, but Yugito was already carrying a whole biju inside her. And here's the key thing. After an extremely harsh training program, Yugito achieved perfect control over her biju transformation. She could transform into the Two Tails fully whenever she wanted. This isn't that half-control, unstable, screaming and struggling thing Naruto had when he was young. This is full, total, flawless mastery. In the Naruto world, a perfect Jinchuriki is one of the rarest and most powerful things you can ever find. Only a few people have reached this state. Killer Bee with the 8 tails, Naruto Uzumaki after he made peace with Kurama, and Yugito with the 2 tails. And Yugito achieved this insanely early in her life. When it comes to combat abilities, Yugito is a fully loaded package. She has powerful fire release and can fire off blazing fireballs wrapped around her burning hair. She can transform into a massive fire cat, and then split into individual flaming hair strands that chase enemies down before exploding. When she uses the 2 tails chakra, she can blast out a gigantic fireball strong enough to destroy an entire building in one hit. Her taijutsu is absolutely no joke either. She can grow her fingernails and toenails into long claws, mixing them with her natural, close combat skills to fight even skilled sword users and hit opponents in midair. But her real power comes from the full biju transformation. When Yugito transforms fully, she gets a massive upgrade in strength and fire-breathing power. Her control over this form is so insanely precise that she can adjust the exact amount of chakra she wants to use. Even Haiden, an actual Akatsuki member, commented before their fight that it would be really hard to defeat her when she had the tailed beast backing her up. But the unlucky part is that she ended up fighting 2 immortals at the same time, so it was obviously tough for her. Some people might say that being a Jinchuriki is an unfair advantage, but that's literally the point. In the ninja world, power is power. And the fact that Yugito was able to totally master a Bijuu's strength and turn it into her own weapon, that's skill. That's pure dedication. That's a completely fearless attitude when facing one of the strongest forces in the entire universe. Yugito Ni is a perfect Jinchuriki, a Jonin of Kumogakure, and the only Kunoichi from this village with enough power and enough real feats to stand on the same level as actual S-rank threats. Kirigakure. Kirigakure, the Bloody Mist itself, is the village that pumped out some of the most ruthless and deadly ninja in the whole Naruto world. And when you talk about the strongest Kunoichi from this place, there are a few names that seriously deserve the spotlight. First, you gotta talk about Amayuri Ringo, a member of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist from the strongest generation ever. Amayuri used Kiba, the twin lightning swords known as the sharpest blades ever created, able to cut through basically anything. According to Might Guy, she was so strong that even 100 Chunin couldn't beat her. She was a total master of lightning release, able to shoot lightning bolts with crazy high precision and create attacks that could absolutely devastate a whole area. Amayuri could also use the silent killing technique, making her a perfect assassin. In terms of Kenjutsu, she gradually overwhelmed Omoi, who's already a really skilled swordsman. But here's the issue. Amayuri doesn't have a single feat against true Kage-level opponents. She's strong, she's deadly, but everything we see is her fighting lower-ranked members of the allied shinobi forces. Then there's Buntan Kurosuke, the later generation wielder of the Kiba blades. Buntan also has powerful lightning release, able to create orbs, armor, and self-attacking creatures. She even has medical ninjutsu skills, and with Kiba, she can control the swords remotely and attack from multiple directions. But honestly, Buntan is on a much lower tier than Amayuri. She's still at Chunin level, fighting Boruto generation kids. This is absolutely not competition for the title of strongest Kunoichi from Kirigakure. So, who actually sits at the top? The answer is Mei Terumi, the 5th Mizukage of Kirigakure. Mei's power is honestly wild, so let's break it down. She straight up has 2 Kekkei Genkai at the same time. 2. In the whole Naruto universe, barely anyone pulls off a double Kekkei Genkai combo like that. It's totally exceptional. Her first Kekkei Genkai is Lava Release, created by mixing Earth and Fire Chakra. Mei can literally spit out acidic mud that can basically melt almost anything in front of her, and she's not just tossing random lava blobs around. She can actively control the strength and acidity of it. With enough exposure, her lava even partially melted Madara Uchiha's Susanoo ribcage. That's totally insane. Her second Kekkei Genkai is Boil Release, mixing water and fire to make a super corrosive mist that melts almost anything it touches. This mist straight up burned through Sasuke Uchiha's Susanoo ribcage. Sasuke, a full prodigy with the Mangekyu Sharingan and Susanoo. And Mei absolutely forced him into a corner, injuring him even though he had Susanoo active. Honestly, if she went all in, she probably would have totally smacked Sasuke into next week in that fight. But Mei isn't just raw destructive power. She's also a seriously sharp tactician. She stays calm, observant, and super perceptive. She even noticed the tiny change in Ao's behavior when Fuyamanaka took over his body. In combat, she can instantly craft strategies on the fly, using her Kekkei Genkai in a complementary way. Lava Release creates steam to block vision, then she follows up with Boil Release to hit the enemy while they're distracted. When it comes to ninjutsu basics, Mei is seriously solid. She's proficient in 4 nature transformations: water, fire, earth, and lightning. With water release, she can create a huge torrent strong enough to instantly put out Madara's fire release technique. Then she immediately uses that same water to form a giant dragon. 2 years after the Fourth Shinobi World War, her mastery of water release straight up protected the entire village from massive meteorites falling from the moon. She literally saved a whole village. That's a totally real Kage-level feat. And of course, Mei is the Mizukage, the leader of the entire village, chosen because her abilities are absolutely strong enough to run one of the 5 great nations. In terms of legacy and historical impact, Mei fully reformed Kirigakure after Yagura's brutal reign. She worked tirelessly to rebuild diplomatic relationships with other villages. She was the leader who changed the entire culture of her home, turning the Bloody Mist into a way more normal, way more human village. Amayuri belonged to the strongest generation of the Seven Swordsmen. And that's totally true. But being part of a strong generation doesn't automatically make you stronger than someone with double Kekkei Genkai, someone who fought both Madara and Sasuke and played a massive role in the biggest war in ninja history. And Mei doesn't need legendary swords. She herself is already a living weapon with 2 Kekkei Genkai. No joke, Mei Terumi isn't just the strongest Kunoichi in Kirigakure. She's honestly one of the strongest Kunoichi in the entire Naruto series, straight up. Omegakure. Omegakure. The village. Hidden in the rain is basically the place where some of the saddest, most tragic ninja stories in the whole Naruto universe come from. And when you talk about the strongest Kunoichi from this village, there's honestly zero competition. Konan is the one and only answer, and here's exactly why. First, her background is straight up wild. Konan grew up during wartime and got trained directly by Jiraiya, one of the 3 legendary Sannin. She was a founding member of the original Akatsuchi, the strongest and most dangerous organization in the entire ninja world. After Yahiko died and Nagato became Pain, Konan was literally the only person who still called him by his real name. She was an S-rank criminal who was highly praised by Pain himself, the same guy who completely destroyed Konoha. Even Jiraiya, her own master, openly praised her strength. But where does Konan's unique power really shine? Paper ninjutsu. Sounds kinda silly at first, right? Paper? But don't let the name fool you even for a second. Konan developed the dance of the Shikigami, a totally insane technique that lets her transform her entire body and clothing into thousands of sheets of paper that she can fully control. She can harden the paper with chakra to create weapons like spears, shuriken, and chakrams. She can make paper clones packed with hidden explosive tags. She can form massive paper wings to fly and fire paper projectiles straight from those wings, and honestly, with all of that, she totally fits the title of Angel. Konan literally flies through the sky like some divine being dropping smoke on everyone. And on top of all that, Konan's paper is seriously resistant to fire release. Jiraiya's flame bullet barely scratched her even when it hit her directly. She could even straight up overpower fire techniques with her paper. Her paper is completely unaffected by water too, which we literally saw in her fight with Toby in the rain. The only real weakness is oil, and that's such a super specific counter that almost nobody would ever think of in an actual fight. Now let's talk about intelligence, because this is the part that makes Konan truly terrifying. She studied Toby's space-time technique, one of the most complex jutsu in the entire series, and she accurately figured out exactly how it works. She ran countless simulations to find the perfect way to kill Obito Uchiha. And Konan almost actually killed him. This is the combat feat I want to highlight hard. Konan disguised an entire lake in a Megakure as paper. Then, when the trap activated, it sent her opponent falling into an abyss while 600 billion explosive tags detonated non-stop for 10 whole minutes. 600 billion. That level of preparation is absolutely insane. This was a full-on doomsday weapon designed specifically to kill Obito, and it totally worked. Toby was literally forced to use Izanagi, a forbidden kinjutsu from the Uchiha clan, just to survive. Izanagi is that busted technique that lets the user rewrite reality itself, turning any bad outcome into a damn illusion. It's a last resort move that cost the user a Sharingan eye, and Obito had to sacrifice his left eye just to live through Konan's final assault. He even openly showed surprise that he got pushed so hard he actually had to use Izanagi. She only lost because she didn't know about Izanagi, and Obito's Izanagi lasted way longer than normal thanks to having Hashirama cells. And honestly, that's not even her fault. Even Sasuke didn't learn about Izanagi until the end of Shippuden. Konan was always quiet and willingly stood by Nagato to support him, but she was absolutely crazy strong. After Nagato died, Konan became the de facto leader of Omegakure. She straight up defected from the Akatsuchi and tried to bring peace to her village in Yahiko's way. She protected Nagato's body and fully rejected Tobi's twisted vision for the world. She stood up against one of the strongest forces in the entire shinobi world because of her beliefs. Iwagakure, the Hidden Stone Village. This place is known for producing ninja with crazy strength and insane durability. And when we talk about the strongest kunoichi from this village, there's one name that absolutely stands above the rest. But before we get to the main choice, we gotta mention Kirara for a second. Kirara is a fabrication created to serve Ku and lead the Akuta forces. She's got some insanely strong genjutsu, totally able to take complete control over her targets just by making eye contact, turning them into puppets. Her abilities were so impressive that even her allies were seriously shocked whenever someone managed to break out of her illusions. Sounds impressive, right? But here's the deal. Kirara is a fabrication. She's not a real kunoichi. She's an artificial being created for one specific purpose. And more importantly, she doesn't have any truly notable combat feats. She absolutely isn't enough to take the title of strongest kunoichi of Iwagakure. So who actually deserves that spot? The answer is Kurotsuchi, the fourth Tsuchikaghê of Iwagakure. Let's start with her lineage, because it honestly says a lot. Kurotsuchi is the granddaughter of the third Tsuchikaghê, Onoki, and the great-great-granddaughter of the first Tsuchikaghê. She was literally born from a bloodline of some of the greatest leaders in Iwagakure's history. But Kurotsuchi didn't just ride her family's legacy, she absolutely earned her position through pure skill and real power. Now on to her unique abilities. Kurotsuchi has Lava Release, a Kekkei Genkai created by combining earth and fire natures. She can control lava in two totally different forms. The first form is Quicklime, which she can combine with her Water Release Water Trumpet technique to boost the range and make it harden like cement, trapping enemies completely. The second form is Expelling Ash to restrain opponents, and by the time she became Tsuchikaghê, she had fully mastered Lava Release. This is the kind of versatility that very few Lava Release users ever reach. But Lava Release is only one part of her whole arsenal. Kurotsuchi is totally proficient in three nature transformations: earth, fire, and water. With Earth Release, she can throw up protective rock domes strong enough to endure several tons of falling rock, hide underground, launch sharp spikes to impale enemies, and pull up massive pillars to take out multiple opponents at once. She's got complete mastery over earth-based combat, which fits her perfectly as a Tsuchikaghê. When it comes to combat skills, Kurotsuchi is a complete package. She's skilled in both Kenjutsu and Taijutsu. She's got great evasiveness and seriously sharp reflexes. And as Tsuchikaghê, she straight up showed a crazy level of physical strength. She literally punched Kinshiki Otsutsuki so hard, he went flying back through the roots of the god tree with a single hit. Now let's talk tactical intelligence. Kurotsuchi can be totally deceptive in combat. She once misled Kabuto Yakushi, one of the most talented medical Enian and spies ever, into thinking her intent was something else, only for him to fall right into her trap. Kurotsuchi's combat record honestly speaks for itself. She was chosen to guard the Third Tsuchikaghê during the Kage Summit, one of the most important events in the political landscape of the shinobi world. She also participated in the Fourth Shinobi World War, where a legend came from the fact that she didn't even flinch when facing 100,000 White Zetsu. But here's her biggest achievement. She became the fourth Tsuchikaghê. In a village with a long and proud history like Iwagakure, being chosen as Kage is basically the highest recognition a ninja can ever receive. She totally proved that she was worthy of the title, worthy of the legacy her grandfather and great-great-grandfather left behind. As Tsuchikaghê, Kurotsuchi worked alongside the 6th Mizukage and totally held her own against members of the Otsutsuki clan. And the Otsutsuki clan is arguably the strongest threat the shinobi world has ever faced. They're straight-up god-tier enemies with abilities way beyond what normal ninjas can even comprehend. And Kurotsuchi fought against them and survived, even delivering seriously effective blows. Some people might argue about Kurotsuchi's bloodline advantage, But how many people are born into powerful families and still fail to live up to expectations? Kuroitsuchi didn't just meet expectations, she absolutely exceeded them. Otogakure. Otogakure, the hidden sound village, is the place where Orochimaru gathered some of the most unique and dangerous ninjas to push his crazy ambitions. And when we talk about the strongest kunoichi from this village, we really gotta look at the actual names that showed up in the series. First, there's Kin Tsuchi. Kin focused on Senbon with really good accuracy, able to strike her opponent's vital points. She attached bells to the Senbon to confuse and distract enemies with ringing sounds. In the anime, she even used sound-based genjutsu activated by those bells. It sounds pretty tactical and clever. But the sad thing is, Kin didn't even pass the Chunin exams. She got eliminated early and didn't have any impressive feats in high-level combat at all. Too bad for her that she had to go against Shikamaru. Dude's brain is simply too big to lose. So, in terms of scaling and power level, she simply can't compete for this title. Then we have Guren, who has Crystal Release, a super unique and insanely powerful ability. Guren can crystallize targets, even the moisture in the air, giving her an unlimited source of weapons. Her crystal release is so dense that even wood release can't penetrate it. Orochimaru even considered her as his next vessel, which totally shows how much potential she had. Guren fought the Three Tails for a good amount of time and even temporarily restrained it. In taijutsu, she fought evenly with Kakashi, dodged multiple Rasengan from Naruto, and fought both Lee and Tenten at the same time. That's honestly impressive. But the sad part? She's a filler character, created by the anime studio, not by Kishimoto. All her feats come from filler arcs, not canon manga. And more importantly, she doesn't have many real combat feats against established canon threats. So who actually deserves the title of the strongest kunoichi from Otogakure? The answer is totally Taiyuya, a full-on member of the Sound Four. Let's properly lay down Taiyuya's credentials first. She's one of the Sound Four, the elite squad that served directly under Orochimaru. These weren't random lackeys. These were warriors he personally picked and totally trusted the most. Taiyuya even claimed she was the second strongest in the group, only below Sakon. And even Shikamaru Nara, one of the smartest tacticians in the whole series, straight up said her combat ability was Jonin level. And later, when Kabuto Yakushi was choosing fighters to bring back with Edo Tensei in the Fourth Shinobi World War, Taiyuya was one of the people he picked. That alone absolutely proves her skills were recognized by top-tier masterminds. Now about her unique power, Taiyuya is the only member of the Sound Four who uses sound as her main fighting style. She wielded the demonic flute and was insanely skilled with it. Her flute is a seriously versatile and deadly weapon. She can perform sound-based genjutsu like demonic flute, phantom sound chains. This technique gets transmitted through the sound of her flute, has extremely long range and crazy power, and can totally affect enemies even when she doesn't know their exact location. This is the type of ability that absolutely shuts down so many combat strategies because you literally can't hide from sound. But that's only one layer. Taiyuya also has a summoning technique that lets her call out 3 creatures called the Doki, these ogre-like monsters that are insanely strong, super durable, and surprisingly fast, even though they're huge. And the Doki don't just fight physically. They can release these materialized spirits that straight up absorb the enemy's chakra, weakening them hard during the fight. This gives Taiyuya a multi-layered attack setup that forces opponents to deal with both deadly genjutsu and brutal physical threats at the same time. Taiyuya also has the Cursed Seal, making her one of Orochimaru's closest and most powerful warriors. When she activates level 2, she gets an absolutely massive boost in strength, stamina, and endurance, letting her overpower even Shikamaru Nara's shadow techniques. When it comes to intelligence and combat ability, Taiyuya is totally fast, super nimble, and crazy evasive. She can smoothly pull off flips and jumps while still playing her flute mid-fight. She has above-average strength and legit taijutsu skill. She intercepted Naruto and landed a clean mid-air punch that sent him flying. She's also very intelligent with excellent strategic thinking. She's not on Shikamaru's level, but even being compared to Shikamaru in tactics is already a massive compliment. Tayuya pushed Shikamaru, one of the absolute top minds in Konoha, to use literally every trick he had. Their battle is one of the most tactical fights in the entire Sasuke retrieval arc. In the end, only Tamari stepping in with her massive wind attack was able to defeat Tayuya. Without Tamari, the outcome of that fight was still totally uncertain. Tayuya is the strongest kunoichi of Otogakure because she brings together a combination of unique abilities, proven combat feats against actual canon characters, recognition from both Orochimaru and Kabuto, and tactical skill respected even by geniuses like Shikamaru. She's not some filler character with questionable feats. She's a real, established threat in the main storyline with clear and undeniable accomplishments. Konohagakure, the Hidden Leaf Village. When we talk about Konohagakure, the strongest ninja village in the whole Naruto world, we instantly get a lineup of absolutely tough kunoichi that anyone would think of right away. We've got genjutsu specialist Kurenai, we've got scouting beast Anko Mitarashi, we've got a super sensor like Ino. But who actually deserves the top spot? Let's break it down properly. First, maybe Hinata Hyuga? She's rocking the Byakugan, one of the strongest Kekkei Genkai ever, letting her see through basically everything and strike straight into the Tenketsu system. During the Fourth Shinobi World War, Hinata fought incredibly bravely. She even pulled off the gentle step twin lion fists, a high-level Hyuga clan technique. But honestly, even though Hinata is strong and has the Byakugan, she still hasn't hit the absolute peak of her own clan. She's still a Chunin, and her sister Hanabi Hyuga is actually rated higher in pure gentle fist skill. Hinata is strong, no doubt, but when it comes to real combat scaling and what she actually accomplished in decisive battles, she just doesn't fully compete for the top spot. To be straight with you, only two people can realistically fight for the title of strongest kunoichi in the Leaf. And that's the legendary master-student duo, Tsunade and Sakura. Tsunade is a legend. No discussion needed. She's one of the Sanin, famous across all 5 great nations. She's the princess of the Leaf, born into the prestigious Senju clan with insanely massive chakra reserves. She's the lighthouse of the entire medical system of the shinobi world. She stood beside other Kage and threw hands with Madara. She healed the whole Hidden Leaf, saved the Kage, and basically kept the entire ninja world alive during the Fourth Great Ninja War. Absolutely wild. And of course, we've got her true successor. This is where things get seriously interesting. At first, everybody knew Sakura was the weakest member of Team 7. Even Shikamaru literally called her a kunoichi with no real special talent. Brutal, right? But that was only part 1. After 2.5 years training under Tsunade, Sakura totally transformed. She didn't just learn top-tier medical ninjutsu, she also inherited Tsunade's absolutely insane strength thanks to her perfect chakra control. That skill lets her focus chakra into her fists and create monstrous strength, strong enough to straight-up destroy entire buildings with one punch. The special thing about Sakura is the strength of 100 seal, a technique that only she and her master can actually pull off in the whole series. This seal takes 3 full years to complete, constantly storing chakra until it reaches a level that's literally 100 times the normal amount. When she released the seal during the Fourth Shinobi World War, Sakura officially reached the point where she could fight right beside Naruto and Sasuke without falling behind at all, even though she's technically a medical ninja. Even Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage, and the straight-up god of shinobi, admitted that Sakura's raw power actually surpassed Tsunade's. But that's just her raw strength. In medical ninjutsu, Sakura is absolutely world-class. She can heal life-threatening injuries, create antidotes for poisons that even Sasori from the Akatsuchi thought nobody could counter. She basically replicated and totally matched the legendary medical feats of her own teacher. And here's the part people totally don't notice. Sakura isn't just strong in combat and healing. Her intelligence is absolutely top tier. She had perfect scores on every academy test. She finished the written part of the Chunin exams without cheating while the other genin had to copy. And even Sasuke Uchiha with his Sharingan straight up admitted that Sakura's analytical skills were actually better than what his bloodline limit could give him. During her fight with Sasori, she used strategy to absolutely fool him, making him think he'd already won, only for her to one-shot the Third Tsuchikaghê puppet right after. You want scaling? In the battle against Kaguya Otsutsuki, literally the strongest being in the entire series, Sakura actually landed a clean hit from behind and punched off one of Kaguya's horns. By the time of Boruto, Sakura becomes the head of the Konoha medical department and reaches Jonin rank. Boruto even thinks that if Naruto couldn't be Hokage anymore, Sakura would absolutely be the replacement. Now here's the big question. Tsunade or Sakura, who's stronger? Sakura is the strongest Kunoichi of the current era, but Tsunade was the strongest of her generation, and she was absolutely legendary. So who do you think deserves the title of the strongest Kunoichi in Konoha? Drop your thoughts down below. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.